2025 has already set the stage for a precarious financial performance, and nowhere is this more evident than in the bond market. And the yield on British 30-year government bonds, or gilts, now at 5.22% is the highest since the tumultuous days of 1998. This yield reflects a deeper problem, the market's waning appetite for British debt. And it's not 1998's external Asian financial crisis this time. The crisis is entirely homegrown. I think it's Brexit. The UK's borrowing needs remain immense, with a budget deficit of 4.4% of GDP, and investors are facing a glut of British debt. They're getting cautious, and a lacklustre auction this year signals weakening demand. This leaves the government juggling a devilish trilemma. Risk higher interest rates, impose deeper austerity, or hike taxes. That's it. Each option brings political and economic peril, particularly as foreign investors, who now hold 25% of the UK's debt, eye alternatives with greater allure. Sterling volatility could send ripples through Britain's financial sector, threatening the City of London's position as the engine of the economy. Against this background of economic uncertainty, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has taken the audacious leap, pivoting towards Beijing with promises of rekindling financial and trade relations. And Reeves heralds China as a crucial partner, claiming that stronger ties could boost UK GDP by £1 billion and generate £600 million in new agreements for financial services and agri-food industries over the next 5 years. And her rhetoric is imbued with the language of pragmatism, asserting that Britain must engage confidently with China. But is China the panacea Reeves paints it to be, or merely another over-egged political omelette? Critics argue that such overtures risk compromising the UK's moral standing, and Labour's backpedalling on its commitment to China to label China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims as genocide and its embrace of Chinese businesses like Shein underscore the transactional nature of this strategy. Even Reeves's invitation to Chinese officials to return to London for more economic talks is being viewed with suspicion by Conservatives and human rights activists alike. Reeves' approach exemplifies a broader problem in modern political discourse. Hyperbole cheapens diplomacy. By inflating every act of statecraft into a grandiose claim, politicians risk eroding public trust in the very institutions they are meant to uphold. Her China pivot, while pragmatic on paper, feels like yet another transactional manoeuvre in an era where even the language of friendship is measured in financial metrics. The emphasis on GDP boosts and investment flows transforms democracy and diplomacy into a sterile balance sheet, bereft of nuance or sincerity. Who can trust these people? Because all the British want is a handout. Such a strategy is particularly dangerous when the UK's relationship with the US, the cornerstone of its economic security, looks increasingly fragile. With Musk's hostility towards Labour potentially reflecting Trump's disinterest in the special relationship, Britain's financial dependence on the City could face significant pressure. If the US decides to reshore business away from London, Reeves' pivot to China might start to look like less of a strategy and more like desperation. The bond market turmoil underscores a larger issue, a big global issue, an issue to do with the system itself, Britain's economic house of cards. And while Reeves insists her fiscal rules are non-negotiable, she's already pushing to the very edge of those fiscal rules anyway. Her reality is grimmer. Rising gilt yields are eroding her carefully constructed fiscal headroom, and the Treasury's iron grip on public finances may soon feel like a stranglehold. As the OBR warned in 2023, the UK's dependence on foreign debt is a double-edged sword. Investors can and will cut and run when the economics no longer adds up. What's particularly troubling is that Britain is not alone in this bind. Rising global bond yields, driven by the US Federal Reserve's hawkish stance and robust economic performance, are creating a gravitational pull that leaves weaker economies like the UK scrambling to adapt. The UK's unique vulnerabilities, persistent inflation, sterling volatility, and heavy reliance on the financial sector only amplifies exposure to these global pressures. China offers opportunities, but they are not without risks. Reeves' optimism about financial services and green tech investments is tempered by concerns over security and human rights. The UK cannot ignore the geopolitical realities of engaging with an authoritarian regime while balancing its commitments to allies like the US and the EU. Furthermore, China's slowing economic growth and its own internal challenges suggest that relying on Beijing as a financial lifeline may be wishful thinking. The gilt problem and Reeves's China gambit reflect deeper structural flaws in Britain's economic strategy. While Reeves's overtures to China may provide a short-term boost, they're no substitute for addressing the fundamental issues of debt dependence, industrial decline, and a fragile financial sector. Her rhetoric may win headlines, but it risks further eroding the public's trust in diplomacy and governance. In the end, Britain must confront an uncomfortable truth that there are no easy answers. The economic storms of 2025 demand more than over-egged omelettes. They demand more than eggs being thrown in one direction or another. They require clear-sighted, clear-eyed, principled leadership capable of navigating a world where transactions alone cannot sustain a nation's prosperity. In the end, a nation's prosperity is defined by its friendships and its alliances, its diplomatic links. And if all of these links look as if they come with a request for a handout, I don't think people are going to trust us, are they?